told us Vikings were ripped warriors sailing to glory with epic sword fights every Tuesday. Reality? Most of them were farmers who sometimes weren't raiding when the crops didn't need watering. But let's back up. Who were these people really? To understand the gap between Thorfinn's anime adventures and the real Viking world, we've got to start with the basics. Vikings weren't just bloodthirsty berserkers, they were traders, they were settlers, and expert shipbuilders from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Living between the 8th and 11th centuries, their daily life mostly farming, fishing, and boat building, and occasionally showing up at someone's poor monastery's doorstep, just hanging around and saying, "Hi, we'd like all your gold, or we will raid you," but that's just something that happens occasionally. So, before we get to the blood and the glory, let's talk about the everyday grind. Mornings started with chores, feeding animals, mending clothes, fetching water. Meals? Barley, dried fish, maybe some ale if you were lucky. Battles? They were rare and dangerous. Dangerous enough that most Vikings hoped to avoid them unless there was good loot or revenge involved. Revenge also motivates people too much sometimes. Scary. Now, contrast that with the world of Vinland Saga. Here comes Thorfinn, knife-wielding, murder prodigy, and part-time existential philosopher. He spends most of his youth chasing vengeance, surviving on what I believe to be just sheer spite, and pulling off combat moves that would dislocate the spine of any real human being. But let's roll back the clock to their childhoods, where all the trauma happens for human beings. No, it's a joke. Thorfinn's early years consisted of sailing with his dad, which was okay, witnessing a brutal murder, which that wasn't as okay, and then joining a mercenary crew before he's old enough to rent a horse. Yeah, that's even less okay. That's very questionable, actually. Let's look at what real Viking kids did. Well, they fed goats, which was good. They learned woodwork, which was also good. And they played with wooden toys. They could maybe get a bit hurt, but they were wooden, so good. Like, sure, they learned to use the weapons, but they didn't usually start their murder career in elementary school. Okay, but what about fighting? Vikings had to be deadly, right? Well, yes and no. Real Viking combat was exhausting. Weapons were heavy, armor was expensive, and most fights were messy brawls, not elegant enemy duels. And dual wielding knives, yeah, that's pure anime flair, not a historical strategy, like whatsoever. You would get bodied, I believe. Yep, just straight up on the floor, squashed or something. I don't know if YouTube can demonetize me for saying any of this, actually. Well, let's continue with the video. And when it came to raids, forget the choreographed battles. In real life, raids were smash and grab. Hit a coastal village, grab valuables, and leave before anyone could mount a defense. In Vinland Saga, though, we get multi-episode battles packed with speeches and slow-motion knife flips, which are cool for TV, but yeah, those are terrible for your life expectancy. Like, if you really want to make it, just shut up and just do the raid. Like, you are gonna get an arrow just like thrown into your eye or something, like thrown at you. I don't know, like, they were not playing around. Like, you had to move. Of course, Thorfinn has a bigger dream. Yeah, his dream was reaching Vinland Saga, a peaceful land across the sea. Historically, Vikings really did reach North America around the year 1000 thanks to Leif Erikson. They called it Vinland, and they stayed for a few years, then left because local conflicts made it not so peaceful. But Vikings weren't all about raiding and sailing. They valued storytelling, poetry, and music, and they loved a good feast. In Vinland Saga, we get glimpses of camaraderie, but most of the time, the show skips the boring yet essential bits like fixing fishing nets or surviving the winter. And when it came to law and order, the Vikings had a code. Killing someone without cause could get you sued, exiled, or worse. Thorfinn's constant knife duels? Yeah, in the real world, that would make him a political nightmare, to say the least. Like, no matter how fast he could dodge, he could not dodge jail. He could not dodge prison time, I assure you of that. If you're into messy, misunderstood history, hit subscribe. I drop weekly videos where I roast your favorite historical dramas while also secretly teaching you something in between the roasts. So if you like the Viking tea, well, I've got plenty more brewing. But let's focus on the video. Here's where Vinland Saga gets surprisingly real. When we talk about the big T, trauma. Viking life could be brutal, and losing family or community left lasting scars. Thorfinn's rage spiral, that was definitely dramatized, but the emotional toll, that part was real. So, which life would you rather have? Real Viking life meant constant survival work, harsh winters, and occasional deadly combat. While Thorfinn's life, that was all combat, all the time, with anime physics, so you could just like flip around and do some cool moves. But you also get the endless enemies thing, yeah. Honestly, both are exhausting, just in different ways. In the end, Thorfinn's world is cinematic. It's intense, it's dripping with trauma, but it's also a funhouse mirror of history. Real Vikings were more complex, more practical, and less stabby on a daily basis. But hey, without the exaggeration, we wouldn't have one of the best historical anime ever made. If you like this history meets anime deep dive, hit subscribe. This was just one saga, and trust me, history's got plenty more epic stories where that came from.